Okay, so we'll begin with our session, that is screen time in autism and ADHD.
नहीं हाँ सब मोटे देखे तो बोबो कर
ये सब लोग कौन है?
Okay, so the first and foremost thing is, what is screen time? Now, when we talk about screen time, it basically refers to the total time which is spent towards the screen. Now, this is very, very important to know that, because majority of our kids and everybody is spending time towards the screens, whether it is mobile phones, whether it is videos, whether it is computers, whether it is tablets, or whether it is television, whatever it is. So it's practically not possible that you can devoid yourself from not being exposed to the screen time. Now, there are two most important words which are there when we talk about the screen time. It is screen time. Please kindly mute yourself, please. It is healthy screen time and unhealthy, or what we call as beneficial screen time or non-beneficial screen time. So now when I will talk about the screen time, it is related to when it is non-beneficial or it is harmful. So when we are being exposed to the screen time, like when we are watching videos, when we are watching mobiles, means when it is one-way conversation, like I'm watching a movie, I'm watching a cartoon, where there is just it's a satisfaction for me. I'm enjoying and I'm feeling happy and I'm enjoying myself while watching that video. So that is basically considered to be an unhealthy screen time. It is very, very important to make ourselves clear that what exactly this screen time refers to. Because when we are watching, when we are doing some activities, when it is a two-way conversation, for example, the routine online classes which we are going, or when we are watching some educational videos, that too, it should be a two-way conversation. A teacher is asking something to the child and the child has to respond, or if it is not responding, that is immaterial, but it should be a two-way conversation. Whenever it is a one-way conversation, that screen time is considered to be unhealthy or non-beneficial, and that is the most type of screen time which affects every individual, whether it is on a neurodiversity, whether it is on a neurotypical spectrum. So this is important to make ourselves clear that when we talk about screen time, it should not be one way. It should be, if it is one way, that is unhealthy. So if it is two ways, that is two-way communication, then it is considered to be beneficial. We'll be talking in future slides that what is that two-way communication and how frequently and what is the duration till when we can, and etc. So what are basically the ill effects of screen time? Now, if we talk about specifically in our kids, definitely physical health. Physical health is one of the major factors which can result in screen time and side, or I would say ill effects. And specifically in our kids who are on the neurodiversity, they have, we know that majority of the kids, or maybe around 20 to 25% of the kids, they are on the obese side. That means the weight is higher compared to the 50% of the individuals. And why it is there? Because definitely other factors which play an important role. We know that they have motor and coordination issues. The axial muscle strength, the core muscle strength is weak. So they are not very much enthusiastic towards the physical activity. It's not for the all, but it's for the general population. So make ourselves clear that why this physical health is more being affected in neurodiverse kids rather than in neurotypical kids. So these are some of the reasons. Other things, they are more prone for allergic manifestation, frequent cough and cold. So as a result, these things act as a confounding factor, which can make the health of a child even more worse. Now, mental health, we know that it's a great side effect for our kids. We know that hyperactivity, anxiety issues, aggression, delayed speech, anxiety issues, and also most important thing is that they may develop a lot of behaviors, and those behaviors may be not good at all in future. And another important thing, which is that when they are being exposed to so much videos where it is only one-way communication, they develop a lot of rote memory. Now, many a times we do, when we interact with the parents, and the parents also come up with the problems, that child can speak the whole rhyme. Suppose the Jack and Jill went up the hill. He will be singing that rhyme completely. But if we asked and reframe the question with the child, who went up the hill? Then he may not be able to answer that Jack and Jill went up the hill, because he is in a rote memory. He knows that what is there, so he has learned that in a form of a root memory. It's like an empty hard disk, and it has gone into his brain because of repeated, but he's not able to understand that. He's not able to incorporate that of a language in relation to the context. If we actually able to understood that who went up the hill, if we have reframed that question, the child will be able to understand. So as a result, many a times we feel, so he is able to sing the whole rhyme. But when I ask the question, is he able to understand that rhyme? Then it becomes a question for everybody. We are not sure. So if we reframe that question, he may not be able to answer that question. So this is one of the most important thing is the child will be learning a lot of things. He may be singing a lot of rhymes, he'll be counting 1 to 100. But when it comes to the language part, when it comes to reframing, or I would say understanding, receptive skills, that becomes poor. So here the child, through a one-way communication of the media exposure, he may be able to develop a speech. Now that speech may not be related to the language or the context in which we are speaking. So then comes the issues. The child has lot of speech, it has lot of vocabulary, but it is not related to the context. It is not related to the setting where it has to speak, or in a simple word, language issues come. He keeps on blabbering, he keeps on saying something or the other which is not being asked to him, or he is talking or is answering in relation which is not related to the question which is being asked. So that means expressive irrelevant speech goes very fast, but receptive skills goes down. So it is an inverse relationship. The expressive speech in will go up, which is totally may not be which may not be related, it may be irrelevant, whereas the language goes down. So it is an inverse relationship when there is a direct exposure to the social media. Another, reduced socialization and social anxiety, separation anxiety. There is nothing to explain in that. We know that because it's a one-way communication. The child is only getting benefits of pleasure. He gets pleasure to see that. He feels happy. He may be able to satisfy his sensory needs. He may be visual seeker because he may feel very fascinated by seeing different types of when these nowadays the videos of the kids which come, they are very, very fascinated. They are 3D. They have so many bright colors. And those bright colors are a very good visual seekers for the kids who have sensory, sensory processing issues. And no doubt, majority of the kids who are in the spectrum above 90%, although the literature says 75%, but majority of the kids above 90% who are on the spectrum, they do have sensory issues. And those sensory issues are satisfied partly by viewing these videos. Then academic performance, it's definitely, whether it is a neurotypical or a neurodiverse, academic performance is definitely hampered. Then, so these are the excessive use of social media reduces the sleep pattern, as we have discussed, because sleep is also a big problem in the kids who are on the spectrum or who are on the ADHD spectrum, because there are so many issues which can affect the sleep. We don't go into the details. We know that it might be sensory, they might be gut, they might be intolerance issues, they might be yeast issues, they might be melatonin issues or hormonal issues. So all those factors are already there in the children. And when we expose them to more of a social media, then these things or problems get worsened. These problems get worsened in neurodiverse kids 3 to 4 times much sleep pattern. The sleep disturbances are 3 to 4 times more in neurodiverse kids compared to neurotypical kids when they are being exposed to the social media. The first and foremost reason is because they are already having sleep disturbances due to the other factors which we have discussed just 1 minute back. So on the other hand, when they are being exposed to the social media, all these factors worsen and they act as a confounding factor. Another most important thing is try to switch off your videos, try to switch off your television whenever you are watching any serials or any movies during the night time, before the child goes for a sleep, at least 1 hour before. Why? Because the blue light and the radiation which are emitted from the screen, they act as I would say inhibitor for the melatonin secretion. And melatonin, we know it's an hormone which is responsible for the secretion. Melatonin is an hormone which is secreted during the night from the brain, which induces sleep and calmness. already the melatonin is less in our kids on the spectrum with severe sleeping issues. And when we are exposed to the screen time, especially during the night time, the child may be sleeping, but the parents may be watching a movie in the same bedroom. So as a result, that exposure is there. Invariably, the child may not be watching, but the exposure is being there. It is reaching. And as a result of this, that may hamper the melatonin secretion during the night time, as a result of which the sleep might be disturbed in the child. So this is a very practical thing which we generally face in our kids who are on the spectrum. So what are the guidelines which has been given to the parents when we talk about the screen time? See, for the children who are less than 2 years of age, whether it is a neurotypical or a neurodiverse kids, screen time has to be totally avoided. Totally avoided means it should be zero. Now, zero again practically is not possible because the type of lifestyle we are dealing, we most of ourselves nowadays are in a nuclear family rather than in a joint family. So husband and wife, both of them are working. Many a times we have to keep the children on the with the help of a caregiver. So nevertheless, they may be exposed to the screen time, even if the child is less than 2 years. So speaking, it should be as you should limit yourself as minimal as possible for the screen time. So zero, again, I would say it's not practically possible, but as much as possible, you should limit your screen time. Now, then comes the age criteria between 2 to 5. Now, in 2 to 5, they say it should not be more than 1 hour in 24 days. I mean, 24 hours. So 1 to 1.5 hour is the guideline which is given by WHO that between the 2 to 5 years, it should not be more than 1 to 1.5 hour. Above 5 years or adolescence age, the child can have a screen time because that is, it's basically an essential part of our routine activities that without screen time, it's not possible. As I've told in the COVID scenario, it's not possible. You cannot wean off the child from the screen time. But the important thing is you have to balance the screen time with the physical activity. As I have told already, we have already the children who are on the spectrum, they have core muscle strength is weak. They have coordination issues. They have cerebellar issues, means balancing issues. They have vestibular issues. So they have proprioceptive issues. So as a result, they are not very much engaged in physical activities. They don't initiate. They don't have the motivation. We have to make them motivate. Or many a times we have to run with them to play in the field. We have to be with them like a play, more than a rules and regulation. It should be a play bonding between both of the parents and the kids. But that may not be applied to a neurotypical kid. But yes, it's do apply for a neurodiverse kids. So all these factors are basically resulting in obesity or resulting in more of a sedentary lifestyle. On the contrary, on beyond that, we are also being the children are also being exposed to the screen time. So all these factors build up together and can result in obesity, then can result in increase in weight gain, metabolic disturbances, digestion issues, more and more allergic problems, asthma. Nowadays, the incidences of allergic cough and cold, asthma are very high in neurodiverse kids. We know that their immunity is weak. And all these factors can further worsen the immunity and other parameters in the child. So important is there should be a balance between the screen time and the physical activity. And what is that balance? They say that at least 1 hour of physical activity is very, very important. Now, 1 hour of physical activity doesn't mean that he's just standing and just playing something. It should be some constructive and vigorous activity. It may be cycling, it may be running, it may be strong gross motor activities, it may be swimming. So such activities, because all these activities will help in also improving their sensory issues. So as a result, if we are able to balance that with physical activity, we may be able to metabolize the fat and etc. energy in a proper way so that even if the excess screen time has been given through the sedentary lifestyle, that can be compensated by the physical activities. And accordingly, if we are able to maintain the screen time and the physical activities, the sleep pattern will also be better. Many a times what happens, we are giving a daytime nap to the children. And then it becomes a problem, the child is not going for the sleep. And when the child is not going for the sleep in the night time, definitely he might be exposed to more of a screen time, either in the form of mobile or in the form of videos or in the form of televisions. So I'm not saying that you should remove the daytime nap, but the daytime nap should be such that, because it's subjective, it varies from child to child. A child who may take a 1 hour of night, 1 hour of daytime nap, he may be comfortably sleeping by 10 o'clock. But a child who is taking just half an hour a night daytime nap, He may not be able to sleep even up to a 12 o'clock. And if you remove that daytime nap, he may sleep immediately after, within a period of 5 to 10 minutes. That may be by 10 o'clock. So the important thing is there should be a continuous 8 to 9 hours of sleep between the age group above 5 years. I mean, above 5 years to maybe adolescent age. So 8 to 9 hours of sleep, uninterrupted sleep during the night time. It doesn't include the daytime. So now the daytime nap can be taken by the parents, whether my child requires 1 hour, whether my child requires half an hour. So it's subjective. But 8 to 9 hours of sleep is very much important for children above 5 years. If we talk about children below 5 years, the daytime nap, the nighttime sleep should be at least 10 to 11 hours of sleep, uninterrupted. This is, we are talking about the night sleep. Now, another things which comes is, do these exposure to social medias, exposure to the television, screen time causes autism or ADHD? We know that there are no causes of autism, there are no causes of ADHD. It is basically multifactorial, or I would say it is sporadic. Means to say there are n number of causes, you can say, or there are no causes. So the thing is, increased exposure to screen time doesn't cause autism, but it can worsen the core features of autism or ADHD. Another important thing is, in excess exposure to screen time can mimic the picture. Mimic means it can present some symptoms which are similar to an ADHD child, which you might find in an ADHD child, but it cannot cause ADHD. So there is a myth that if you give increased exposure to, or there is an excess exposure to that, it can cause autism and ADHD. No, it cannot cause. Only thing is that it can worsen the already present, the symptoms which are there in the children who are on the spectrum. But yes, those who are on the ADHD, those features can also get worse. Another important thing, even if a neurotypical child is absolutely fine with pointing, response to call name, everything is fine, he's absolutely bright child. And if between the age of 2 years or so, he's been exposed to excess screen time, which may be 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, he may develop symptoms, or he may develop pictures which are mimicking, or which are closely related to that of an ADHD. Although he may not be an ADHD child, but it will be related to that. Like there may be a lot of isolation. I mean, he will be more happy being confined to one place. So social interaction will be poor. He may be very aggressive. He may be hyperactive. He may be having a delayed speech. He may be aggressive. He may not like to get mingled with others. So he may be more and more exposed to the screen on the videos. He may get addicted towards the video. As a result, he may have that behavior of bullying. Many a times we know that children who are on the spectrum or ADHD, they have a lot of issues of bullying in the school. So those things can happen in children who are on the neurotypical spectrum, but being exposed to an excess screen time. So the bottom line is, excess exposure to screen time doesn't cause autism and ADHD, but it can mimic the picture of an ADHD child in a neurospectral kids. So what now, when we talk about what are the benefits of screen time? Now, benefits of screen time, yes. If we talk about the neurotypical spectrum kids, we know that as we know, nowadays we are being exposed to screen time, and all of our studies, academics are being done through screen time. So we are talk about the benefits. It can promote, yes, definitely. It can promote learning. It can promote knowledge. It's a way of basically, enhancing your skills. For example, through the Facebook, or through the social medias like YouTube or Instagram, you can basically show your talent to the world. But again, that talent and that exposure and that use of social media should be in a balanced way. Another useful are kids who have a lot of speech delay, or who are not able to produce sounds, or non-verbal kids. We can use apps like Avaz. Other apps are also there, and there are certain apps which help in making the body calm. Like there are Satya, calm apps and digital platforms are there which help in making the child calm. That is yoga exercises, butterfly tree pose, and etc. and etc. So no doubt they have a lot of benefits of screen time, because we are in such a 21st century where we cannot imagine a life without being the screen time. So screen time is basically now become an essential part of life. But again, it's very important to balance the time of this screen time with other activities. activities. It should not be like that we are totally involved into that, and especially when we are talking about the neurodiverse kids, because it's a very tricky situation. It's very easy to discuss about all these things, but when we talk practically, it is a very I would say difficult and very confusing situation. So it has to be taken and tailored individually, and the call has to be taken not by the therapist but actually by the parents, because they are with them 24/7. So what time they should be exposed to the screen time and how much duration, so that it is balanced with the other physical activities. So as I've told, I have made a small bottom line here in this slide, caution that this screen time should be balanced with the very important thing is with the physical activities. That is very, very important. Now, if we talk about in terms of spectrum kids, now instead of going into the benefits, they can have harmful effects. Now, what are those harmful effects? If we talk about the spectrum kids, they may not be very much enthusiastic in I would say attending the online classes. Now, why they are not very much interested in attending the online classes, but they may be able to attend, or I would say they will be able to enjoy a video or any rhyme. But if the same thing is replaced by a class, or forget about the class, some interaction with the other family member. For example, you are on a video call. You have suppose XYZ child's father is on a video call, and here is the child. He may not be able to interact. He may not be able to look at him also. He may be looking for 1 second. Forget about the interaction. If I take it as an example of one-way communication, only the father is speaking and through the video call, and the child is sitting here, he will not be interested in looking at him. I had made this just a one-way conversation, but still he's not happy. He might be running here and there, or he might just ran away from the screen. But instead of the father video call, if I put music, or if I put some bright music, balls which are jumping, or some rhyme with lot of 3D versions, lot of fascinations, he will be coming and sitting and enjoying. Why? Because those things, those bright lights give lot of visual input to the child. So as a result, what happens? They become they are, we know that they are visual seekers. So those visual seeking sensory issues, they may be, I would say they are basically satisfied with. Another important thing is auditory insensitivity issues, which also is a big problem. When some kids, they may be watching the videos at a very high pitch, or when we are seeing video, many a time we have to say reduce the volume of the video. Why they are happy to see the videos on a so high pitch? Because of the auditory insensitivity issues. They may be liking those videos at a very high pace, or they may not be enjoying when the volume is low. So these are some of the harmful effects in the children who are on the spectrum when they are being exposed to the screen time. But again, that is why the duration of the screen time should be balanced with the physical activities. Because if they are being satisfied only through these sensory issues, or sensory needs are being satisfied only through seeing the videos again and again, then it can become a problem for the child. So the balance between these activities, sensory, I would say the exposure, and the physical activities is very, very important. Now, another important thing is we do have, we talk about the benefits. We do have a lot of customized, nowadays also on the social media, they have a lot of activities or games where they focus on, I would say, recent memories, where they focus on adjectives, or they can focus on, I would say, memories or visuals or pointing, in which what they will be doing, either they'll be using a matching from A or B, or they'll be matching one letter or matching the coloring. So those different activities are there. So those activities are actually also, I would say, not exactly one way, because if the child from the video, the question is being asked and the child has to respond. So that way it can be a beneficial to the child. But again, that excess exposure is very, very harmful, because practically when they are being exposed to those games, they'll be seeing only for a particular period of time. And then again, they'll be watching those videos where they'll be enjoying either rhymes or etc. So whenever we are following this, we have to be very, balanced, that how we have to make this thing so that the child is not neglected from the screen time and it is not being exposed to excess screen time. Because if I tell you a 7-year-old child who's on the spectrum, you should give him zero screen time, that is not practically possible. That is actually not possible. So what is the age criteria? As we have discussed, the age criteria that less than 2 years, social interaction is very much required for the brain development. So digital devices in this age group should be totally restricted. Now, another important thing, if we talk about little, I would go into little more detail. Why children before the age of 2 years are being restricted to avoid screen time to zero? Why this limit has not been raised to 4? Why it is not to 5? Why it is not to 1? There is a logic in this. Why? Because we have discussed about synaptic pruning. Now we have discussed about brain synapses. We know that synaptic pruning is something which is the main problem of the children who are on the spectrum. Now, to make it little more clear and simple, synaptic pruning means when a child is born, when a newborn is there, it has a lot of connections in the brain. There may be hundreds and hundreds and millions of connections from one brain to from one part of the brain, or what we call as neuron, the brain cells. So they will be connecting like, just imagine yourself, there are so many wires spread, and between the wires, please kindly mute yourself. So as a result, there are zigzag circuits and connections are there. So when the child is in the age group of 2 to 3 years, synaptic pruning happens. Synaptic pruning means the unwanted connections in the brain which are there, which are not being utilized, through which the impulses or the signals are not being going, they automatically get deactivated, or they get automatically, I would say, degenerated, so that the remaining connections become more and more smooth and become more and more mature for our logical thinking, understanding, and our receptive speech, and etc. and etc. That means higher mental functions. So this pruning, which happens between the age of 2 to 3 years, is very, very important for our intellectual thinking and better mature brain processing. So if the child has been exposed between this age group of 2 to 3 years to excess social media, that synaptic pruning gets hampered. So this is the reason that why children between the age of below the age of 2 to 3 years are being exposed to zero screen time as advised by WHO, because scientifically during this period the pruning happens. If they are being exposed to excess of this the screen time, synaptic pruning may be affected. As a result, they may lead or land up into the spectrum of an ADHD child, which may result in all those issues which we have discussed. So this is the logic why we have to expose our children to less screen time in the age group of 2 to 3 years. So again, we have discussed about the benefits. Definitely our talent, we can expose our talent. We can also discuss through the lectures, the topics. Nowadays, again, the thing is, we are being exposed to a lot of things through the classes. Almost all of the classes are being going through online. But now, again, discussing all that issues, again, the problem comes that my child doesn't listen to the teacher. He might be watching the videos, but he doesn't listen to the teacher. He may get easily distracted. He may be looking here and there. The children, one most common query which happens is a simple query. Just a simple example. You can extrapolate in terms of your individual child. Suppose a child is verbal and mother asks, what is your name? He will tell, my name is Amit. But if the same question is being asked on the opposite side of the screen during the online class by the teacher, what is your name? He may be shy. He may be looking here and there. He may be doing clapping, or he may be just playing with the keyboard. The mother might be asking the teacher might be asking 2 to 3 times, what is your name? He might not speak, as though he's non-verbal. Then if after the class, when the mother asks what is your name, he will speak immediately. Now the problem comes. So he knows everything, but he is not able to speak up during the class. The problem is the sensory issues. First and foremost thing is lack of confidence. Another important thing is the child may be having a poor eye contact. Another important thing, when the class is being going on, there are a lot of other faces might be there on the media, on the screen. That may be distracting the child, because that may be acting as a visual, or it may be acting as an auditory, because a lot of voices might be coming. So those things, as a parent, we should know, and also we should explain the teacher that whenever you are asking, try to ask in a very simple, polite way. Give him some time of at least 25 or maybe 15 seconds, and try to make the screen individual only for the child and for you, if it is possible. So if we, and also we should, we should never force the child during that period. What is your name? You don't know. Why you are not telling? Why you're not telling? That may give him even a negative response to the child, because there may be some internal things which may be happening in the child, which he may not be able to express. But as a parent, we know that the child in the spectrum, we should analyze those things, or we should anticipate those things, and accordingly we should train the child while attending the online classes. The best thing, we should always prepare the child once he's going for an online classes at least 30 minutes before. Act as a video model. Now, another benefit of this screen or the social media is modeling. Now, there are two types of learning: abstract learning or spatial learning. Now, spatial learning means when we are seeing a video or when we are doing a live demonstration. And abstract learning means just in the form of text, what I'm doing right now with you. So here, what happens? The children who are on the spectrum, they have a very good, brain mapping. Brain mapping in the sense, they will learn very fast. They are basically visual learners. That is why they take a lot of visual seekers. They enjoy those videos. So we have to teach them through the visual learning. You make them see videos, but those videos should be in the form of beneficial. For example, suppose you are making the child to attend a online class, for example. So first, that thing of that demonstration should be done between you and the child. You can mentor as a teacher, and the child or some caregiver along with the child can be there like father. And on the other side, you discuss and make a scenario of a classroom, you being acting as a teacher and the child with the father as a caregiver and attending the class with the student. So in this way, he will be able to understand the concept, and then you can ask the questions. Probably he may be able to answer it, because you are not seeing him directly physically. It's just through the social. So as a result, that distraction, that clarity of voice, that auditory issues, he may be able to handle that. And once he's able to attain that, because their memory will be developed in him that yes, this something will be happening in another 30 minutes. So as a result, he may be able to perform the, he may be able to give a response in a better way when being exposed directly to an online class in a group of 30 people. So that is one. So these are the benefits. That is video modeling. Video modeling means you are doing something through the video. Live modeling means you are doing without a video, you are just performing an activity. For example, you are making the child to pedal the cycle. Now, if you tell him that, okay, aapko aise karni hai, one leg down, other leg up, he may not be able to understand at all. A neurotypical child may be able to understand because they have a good abstract learning. But a child who's on the spectrum, he may not be able to. You have to actually demonstrate that pedaling in front of him. So this is what we call as live modeling. Or other thing is video modeling, where you take out a video from the YouTube of a pedaling and then show him that how it has to be done. So these are the benefits that will help in developing their spatial learning. So we should always encourage spatial or visual learning rather than going for an abstract learning in children who are on the neurodiverse spectrum. So this is one thing, or we can make an advantage of social media in this way to help in developing imitations, to help in developing learning. So what are the disadvantages? Now, again, the same thing which we have discussed. Here I have written a lot of in terms of neurotypical, but when we talk about, since our topic is related to the neurodiverse kids, so the most important thing which I have highlighted is aggression, hyperactivity, behavioral issues, poor social interaction, poor cognition. Now, one thing I have mentioned here is excess screen time. Now, I have told you about what is the duration of the screen time. Sorry, that it should be between 1 to 1.5 hours, or children before the age of 2 years should be exposed to 0 hour of screen time. Now, what is this excess screen time? Unfortunately, there is no definition for that excess screen time. Is it more than 4 hours? Is it more than 5 hours? Is it more than 1 hour? Neither there is a age criteria between the excess screen time, that what should be this. When I have told you that between the age of 2 to 5 years, 1 to 1.5 hours is the time limit with 1 hour of physical activity. So if the child is being exposed to 2 hours, does that mean an excess screen time? Or if the child is being exposed to 3 hours, does that mean an excess screen time? No. Excess screen time in a very simple language means if you are watching a screen, if you are watching the videos or the screen to a limit, to such an extent that it is hampering your day-to-day activities, it is hampering your academic learning, it is hampering your intellectual learning, it is hampering your results in therapies, or it is hampering your cognition improvement, what the child has attained previously. So this is a very simple rule, which is a thumb rule. So means to say, I have made myself very clear that this excess screen time can vary from child to child, even if he is on the neurospectrum diverse. A child who is on the mild spectrum, for him, excess screen time may be of 2 and 2 hours, or I mean up to 4 hours in 24 days, in 24 hours. But a child who's on the severe spectrum with a lot of sensory issues, with a lot of speech delays, or maybe a comorbid with ADHD, and a screen time of just 1 hour may can disturb him a lot. So as a result, but again, you can't make a 7-year-old child to make a zero screen time. So the best thing is involved with the physical activities. So that is the main purpose of telling this is the screen time or the definition of excess screen time can vary from child to child, can vary from severity to severity. So that call has to be taken by the parents or the caregivers, that it should not go to such an extent that it can affect his hampering, learning, academics, routine activities, and the results in therapies. So if I talk about the general guidelines, so these are the guidelines which have been given by the WHO, that for the social media exposure like Facebook, Twitter, even the WHO knows that these social media platforms are so much essential part of a life that without them it's not possible. So they have given clear-cut guidelines to the different type of social medias like Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Google Plus. The minimum permissible age is 13 years. For the WhatsApp, the minimal permissible age is 16 years. But unfortunately, even a 7-year, 6-year-old child is being exposed to WhatsApp and he knows much more than us. So it's not the child to be blamed. It's in fact, we are to be blamed. Because many a times we'll be having our food, watching the videos, doing a WhatsApp, doing our things. So we basically don't act as a role model. The child is basically imbibing wrong things from us. No matter whether the child is in the spectrum, no matter whether he's a neurotypical, we as parents are his role model. Whatever you tell him, he will not learn. But whatever you do, he will learn. He will actually imbibe. So the best thing is, rather than giving him instructions, rather than giving him, demonstrate those things. And again, if I tell that before teaching your kid, you have to teach yourself that I don't have to watch the video. I don't have to do the chatting. I don't have to do the WhatsApp during the eating or during watching the videos during the dinner time. If we should apply first to ourselves and we are able to apply that, automatically the child will be able to learn that. So it's waste of time, waste of energy, telling him not to do that or following them or giving him instruction not to follow this, not to do that. So it's a general permissible age group for different criterias of different platforms, that what are the age criteria which they have been exposed. Like YouTube, I was amazed to see that YouTube, the minimal permissible age group is 18 years. So now this is something, a very disastrous side effect of social media addiction. Now this media addiction means that he is continuously being exposed to that media, either in the form of gaming or in the form of whatever games or whatever. But he's become so adamant to that, that even if that that media exposure is being removed from him, he gets so disheartened, he gets so aggressive. Now these things do happen in the children who are on the severe ADHD. And not only so, these things can worsen the component of ADHD, and definitely along with ADHD, it can result in OCDs, it can result in depression, it can result in anxiety. We know that ADHD is one part of it's one part of the neurodiversity, but along with the ADHD, we know that there are so many associated things around the ADHD. It can be comorbid, it can be depression, it can be anxiety, it can be obsessive compulsive disorder, it can be bipolar, it can be a lot of separation anxiety, aggression, sleep issues. So all those things can happen. Now, if I talk about the media addiction in our kids who are on the spectrum, why the media addiction happens? Now, although it is not very too high, but if we talk about in the ADHD, the media addiction is quite high. The reason first and foremost is early exposure to the media. Now, this early exposure to the media, as we have discussed, the age and everything, it can happen. Other thing, if the child is having a lot of sensory issues, maybe visual seeker, or he may be having auditory. He may be able to, get exposed to this media experience, and he may get satisfy his needs through that. Now, lack of routine in COVID-19 pandemic is another important thing. Lack of routine in the sense, if we are not able to, we always tell that there should be an independent, or there should be an activity schedule for the child, what we call as scheduling. Now, scheduling is something which is very, very important for a child who's on the neurodiversity, because that scheduling will basically help you and even the child to, spread the 24 hours of day in a useful and healthy way. Now that scheduling, it should be in such a way that there should be time for media exposure, there should be time for eating, there should be time for free play, in which he may do stimming, he may do whatever, doesn't matter, because stimming is something, it's not, many a times parents feel that stimming is negative. Stimming is not actually negative. It's actually a compensatory mechanism for the child to basically compensatory mechanism for the child to calm down when he's being exposed to a lot of sensory inputs. For example, if I'm giving a lecture to 100 people on the stage for the first time, there'll be a lot of anxiety in my body. I'll be very anxious. So I may be curling my hairs. There'll be a feeling of zero gravity in my body. I'll be moving to and fro. I'll be jumping here and there. I mean toes. I'll be on my toes. So what is that? It's basically a stimming. Why I'm doing that? Because through those things, I'm able to bring a calmness, a sense of relaxation in my body. And then after 5 to 10 minutes, I'm able to give that lecture. But if the child is on the spectrum with severe sensory issues, he may go in a state of sensory meltdown. He may be doing this, and ultimately he may be doing to such an extent that he may forget, and as a result, he may get disconnected from the world. So in that case, an external force like a caregiver or a mother or a parent has to come, intervene, and tell him take to a peaceful environment, intervene so that he stops still. But if a child who has mild stimming issues, who doesn't do in routine activities, who does it when he's been exposed to a lot of academics, or he's been exposed to a lot of physical activities, or he's been exposed to a lot of commands, so that he gets sensory overburden. So after that, in the free time, if he does it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it doesn't make any difference. He will actually feel relaxed and calm. And as a result, he will be able to focus better. Stimming has to be intervened. It's a general rule. Stimming has to be intervened unless only when it is being affecting your day-to-day routine activities. It is affecting the academic learning. It is affecting your, learning and everything. It's just like another thing is just like, as I have told you about the exposure to the social media, excess screen time, when it has to be intervened. Similarly is for the screen. So another reason why there is a media addiction is definitely COVID-19 pandemic. We parents and continuously being working online through either from our work home through the laptops. So what the children are seeing are the laptops. So as a result, they are also being, not forced, but they are encouraged. I would say indirectly, they are being encouraged to being exposed to the screen time. Another important thing is picky eating behavior. Now, picky eating behavior is a very big problem in the children on the spectrum. We know that oromotor issues are there, or it can be different things. Now, to make them eat, again, there comes, emotional touch of the parents. The child is not eating. I have to make him eat. At least wo kuch to kha le. So as a result, we get exposed to the screen time, give them the screen time. We know that it's bad, but what we do? We as a parents, we get emotionally attached and we get worried that he's not taking anything. So, okay, doesn't matter. At least he will take one chapati exposed to the screen time. So those things are also affecting and resulting in increased media addiction. So encouraging healthy use of screen time, what we have said, we have discussed that the first and foremost thing is whatever we are discussing, we have to apply on ourselves. If we are able to apply on ourselves, then definitely the child will be able to learn a lot of things from us. Although it may not, at least some of the things he will be able to learn. And whenever you are being given the screen time, or the child is showing a lot of behaviors, or is not listening to you, you should always follow rules and regulation, and with the consequences. Now, those consequences and rules should not be to such an extent that you should start abusing, or you should do physical hitting or slapping. Those things should not be there. You should not be shouting. The commands and the rules and regulations should be dealt with the child in a firm and polite manner. So if you have set up a rule that, okay, you finish this task, and after completing this task, you will get to watch the video for, half an hour or 15 to 20 minutes. And if he doesn't do that task, or if he's showing all those escape behaviors, okay, he's writing in a very bad shape, or he knows his writing is good, but he's writing in a very bad manner, so that he wants to just escape and wants to watch that video. So if during that tussle, if he wins, then believe me, the next time will be a great tussle for you. If you are able to handle your child in 30 minutes in the first time, if you are not able to handle, then ultimately at the next time, he will not be able to listen to you. And that tussle will keep on going up to, that tussle period keeps on increasing. And ultimately at the end of the day, you have to drop your hands and you have to leave the wings. You have to just give up, and he will take up the laptop or whatever he wants to see without completing the task which you had given to him. So this is very, very important, that you have to give him a proper rules with consequences, so that he knows. You have to make him realize that he has done something wrong. If he has, again, I'm telling, if he's not able to understand that much abstract language, or that ability of understanding is not there to the child, start using spatial graphics, start using visuals, paste on the, paste on the walls, paste on the doors, that, okay, prepare a scheduling. Okay, this is your time, you have to get up. This is your video time. This is your study time. So that when he keeps on looking at that, keeps on repeating, he will be able to, he will able to get that brain mapping in his mind, that yes, this is my visual scheduling. So automatically he will know that yes, this is my time. This is my time of study. This is my time of sleeping. So this is how we keep on building the visual scheduling, so that we are able to balance an activity between the screen time and the physical and rest of the activities. So another thing is, whenever we are being exposed to the social media, uh, either should we watch continuously for 20 minutes, should we watch continuously for 1 hour? No, there is a thumb rule of triple 20, 20, 20, 20. Now this 20, 20, 20 means whenever you are watching a screen time, it should be at a stretch of 20 minutes. The distance between the screen time and the video should be 20 meters, and you should give a break of 20 minutes. Now, this is the thumb rule, but yes, it's again, it's not that I would say you have to follow this, but how much feasible it is, we have to follow accordingly. But 20, 20, 20 is the guideline which has been given by the standard recommendation authorities for exposure to the screen time. It's not related to autistic children. It's not related to neurodiverse. It's for the general, it's for the whole population of set of group of adults, even for children, whether they are on the neurodiversity, whether on the neurotypical. So there are a lot of benefits. There are a lot of advantages, provided if we use the benefits of these, social media in a proper and a judicial. If we are using it more of for a creational activities, more of our, I would say killing time activities, then it can become a lot of problematic condition. It can result in a lot of issues in our kids. But if we are using for educational purposes, for yoga activities, where there is more of important thing is, it should be a two-way communication rather than one-way communication. And whenever it is a two-way communication, or suppose you are teaching him a yoga online class for the first time, it's, you can't expect a child to focus on the yoga. Even a neurotypical child cannot focus. So it's just that our child are on the spectrum, so we get more anxious, we get more worried, and we give up that he will not be able to focus. Just follow that task 30 minutes before with your child, and you being as a mentor of a yoga teacher, whatever, as I've explained you around 20 to 25 minutes back. So we are able to perform that activity. The child will able to brain map that activity. Yes, the next thing he may be able to anticipate. So probably the results and cooperation you might get from the child may be better and better, and gradually it might improve. So what are the things where the digital exposure should be totally freezed? Bedrooms, dining table, kitchen, bathroom, vehicles where no family member should use a gadget. Now, unfortunately, bedrooms and I would say the dining tables, they are the ones which have been most exposed to the social media. Even if there are 8 to 7 members in the family, all of them will be playing with the YouTube, or they'll be doing chatting and having their food. None of them will be interested in asking the other family member, how is your food? Did you like the food? How is it? It's a very practical thing, and it's followed to us also. It follows to me also. So we should try to minimize those exposures of gadgets in the family gatherings, or especially during the times which I have mentioned as free zones. So if we are able to utilize some of these things which we have discussed today, so probably we will be able to utilize the exposure of the media and the myths and the negative effects of the social media which are there in our mind, that it can hamper the child. Actually, it can bring a positive benefits to our kids. So this is the 2020 rule which I have shown you. That is, every 20 minutes, take a break for 20 seconds and then look at an object from 20 feet. So these are the things. So you should, whenever you are viewing the video, you should see at a stretch for 20 minutes, then give a break for at least 20 seconds, so that you can give the relaxation to the eyes and it also gets benefit. Although a lot of, I would say, advancement in the technology, they are using UV protection screens, but ultimately, definitely screen exposure, retina exposure through the radiations will definitely be there. So this is the rule which has been given by the standard authorities for the exposure to the media. Every 20 minutes for every 20 seconds and distance of 20 feet. So parent as a role model, as I've told, that we as a parents are the role model of our kids. So if we are just giving them the instructions, nobody likes giving instructions. If I keep on giving you instructions, don't do this, don't do this, you will be one day get irritated to me. Oh, you are my boss, forget it. I will do whatever I want, and I know my best and I know what I'm doing. Similarly happens to a kid. Nobody likes to give instructions again and again. They will be thinking in their mind, you better do it first, then tell me that you should also do. So that's the way. That is why the psychology of the children is also such that though they may not be able to speak properly, they may not be able to express verbally, but it's not that the psychology is not developed. The psychology is very well developed. So before telling them anything, we should do that thing, and then we should expect the child to follow. If he's not able to, if he's not following that, then we should find some alternatives, or we should, talk. We should instruct him, and etc. So to summarize, screen time is the total time spent per day in viewing screens like mobiles and etc., which we have discussed. But the important thing is you should differentiate healthy screen time in relation to an unhealthy screen time. The screen time should be balanced in such a way that it is being mixed with the physical activities, it is mixed with the free time, play, and etc. Avoid giving exposure to the screen time to children less than 2 years, as we have discussed that it can disturb the synaptic pruning, which is the main and the foundation for the high mental functions and for maturization of the brain. And I'm giving a webinar tomorrow. You will be sharing a link, that is how gut dysbiosis and synaptic pruning can affect the development of a brain in an autistic child. So this webinar will be telecasting tomorrow at 9 p.m. on the Zoom, and the link will be shared probably by tomorrow morning. So those who are interested can just directly join into the link. There I'll be discussing in detail about gut dysbiosis. Although I have given gut dysbiosis many a times, but tomorrow we'll be discussing the gut dysbiosis in relation to synaptic pruning and how it can affect the maturization of a brain. So this coming to our present thing. So healthy media usage promotes learning, creativity, as we have discussed the benefits of social media, and said that there are a lot of disadvantages. There can be a lot of red flag signs if we do not use the media in a proper and a judicial way. So to end that, I was just tell that we as a parents are the best role models, where we can teach them and make them utilize the social media in a proper and a beneficial way. Thank you. I hope we had able to discuss some of the positive and benefits of this social media exposure in neurotypical and neurodiverse kids. So now I'll be taking up to the questions, and then we'll be closing up the session.
Sir, I have a question. Can I
Yeah.
put it? Sir, I just you spoke about it's a wonderful session and quite informative. Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
just wanted to know you have already spoken about 2020, but
Yeah.
how much, since my son is interested in viewing the TV most, not so much into mobiles. So I
Hmm.
just wanted to ask you, like, how much